Can you share a time when your career was at a low point?
Oh, how many do you want to hear? Yeah.
Can you describe
I'll give you two of them
and how you dealt?
Well, let's see. Is the second one? Well, I'll give you the first one. Okay. When I was just starting out doing stand-up comedy, it's a very precarious time because before you have an act, it could just go out from under your legs at any time. You know, you could just not end up having an act. You don't know. You're just writing jokes and hopefully it'll become an act. You know, so when I was first starting out, I was about 6 months into it. I was emceeing at this comedy club a couple of times a week, and I decided to try out some material, you know, while I was emceeing. And I was trying out like a bit, not jokes, but an actual bit. Like I was going to do this character and this thing. So in a bit, once you get in it, you have to do the whole bit. You're kind of in it, and you got to like go through the 2 minutes or whatever it was. And it died the death of deaths from the beginning, right? I mean, horrible death. And I'm the first person to go. I'm hosting the show, all that stuff, and it's just horrible. And I remember in those days I wore my contact lens all the time, right? But that night, for whatever reason, I wore my glasses. I don't even remember why. And my glasses, I'm not making this up, literally started fogging up. I mean, that's how horrible my flop sweat was, so bad that my glasses started fogging up, like they had flop sweat or something too. So not only am I dying, I can't even see the audience that is now hating me in droves. Like if you could actually take hate out of you and throw it up to somebody. That's what it felt like. I'm like, oh God, they hate me. This is horrible. But I'm in the bit. I had to finish the bit, the stupid little bit that I came up with. So I'm finishing it. And then I tried to do some jokes, and it was horrible, horrible. So I get off stage, and you know, I introduce the first act, and they kill, of course. They do great. But I'm the MC, so I have to go back on stage. A horrible night, right? So I go back on stage, and hate comes back. I can feel, you know, oh, why is this guy back on? Oh my God, he's back. Oh, you know, it's all that stuff. I'm like, no, but you don't understand. I really am funny. I was just doing this. So, you know, I introduce Nick Sahikos, and I come up again, and it's just horrible. And I remember driving home that night. I was crying in my car. Oh, this is terrible. I'm gonna quit. I don't need these things. I don't need this. I'm not funny. And then the next day, you know, it's just like I was a 5-year-old. You know, 5-year-olds don't remember they were mad the day before. You know, just back to writing jokes. And the next night was great. You know, so but I was so upset. You know, I felt like I was ready to really quit, you know. But my other really down moment was with the Bernie Mac show. It was the high point of my career. I won an Emmy, I won a Peabody, I mean, TV Critics, every award you could win, but I never got along with the network. And it was very contentious. They just never liked the show. They never thought it was funny, blah, blah, blah. They wanted me to change things, you know, all kinds of things, you know. And I'll tell you this quick story on it if we have time, since we're talking about race and everything, right? So, and I can, you know, I'm like, you know, I have racist radar too for some things, you know, so don't try to pull some shit over, you know, on me, because I'll figure that shit out in a second. So, but most people are pretty cool with stuff. I don't want you to get the wrong impression here, but the guy who was running Fox at the time was horrible. I mean, he was just an idiot, and he's not even in the business anymore. But he really was abusive to his employees, and he had a reputation for that. He was just a horrible guy. But he was also an idiot. He started off in, I won't offend someone who's studying this field, so let's just say he was in a different field other than actual showbiz, okay? Since we're in the communications department, all right? All right, so he really doesn't get things, you know, and I had deconstructed the whole sitcom just to write the Bernie Mac show. You know, I had gone through this whole process, and he's giving me notes, you know, like, you know, I'm writing Friends or something like that, you know. And I remember he tried to embarrass me once in front of everybody, and this is the head of the network, keep in mind, and this is how much I didn't give him, you know, right? So he's like, so Larry, the way that you write, he's lecturing me in front of everybody, trying to humiliate me. He's like, the way that you write is you bring something up in the first act, and you come back to it in the third act. And I said, okay, so what you're saying is the way that I write is unpredictable. And he said, yeah. And I said, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah, end of meeting, right? And everybody's like, oh shit, man, just what I'm saying. He would hate that stuff. And I remember in the press when, what happened was, And even on the night of the Emmys when I won it, he was in the bathroom telling the executive, well, I guess we can't fire him now. I guess we can't fire him now on the biggest night. And for them, it made them look good, you know. So these are the kind of frustrating fights I have. This is Hollywood, though. I'm not unique in this, by the way. You know, and it's not personal. It's inherent to how things work there sometimes, you know. But by the end of that year, I ended up getting fired from the show, right? From the Bernie Mac show, the greatest thing I ever did. And I was so down. I mean, you felt crushed. I mean, that was my baby. But in the press, I wrote things like, well, we had creative differences. I was creative and they were different. Like, I would say things like that. I was like, yeah. So at least I said that. It was like an Entertainment Weekly or something like that, yeah. But I had so many people come to my, you know, just aid and come up to me. People like Stephen Bochco, you know, who had done great shows on television, Carl Reiner, Jim Brooks from The Simpsons. I mean, some of the biggest names who called me up and say, hey, Larry, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. And I remember I got the, I was watching the DVD of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and I was watching the pilot, and Jim Brooks almost went through the same exact thing with the network, so they thought it wasn't funny and all this stuff. He almost got fired. Mary Tyler Moore saved him, though, at the time. And I just realized, yeah, I'm not unique in this, but it was really, really, it was one of my lowest moments, but I ended up going over to NBC and realized that I wanted to get back into performing, and that's what basically led to The Daily Show, was getting fired from there and realizing that it was time to get back to performing. So that one low moment reminded me of why I was there in the first place, that I was there to do this other thing too. And to act on The Office, which was a lot of fun. I played Mr. Brown in the Diversity Day episode. There you go. I forgot about that, Diversity Day. Yeah. So that low moment opened up this whole other thing that I had kind of forgotten about, and that was performing and all that stuff. Yeah.